Young Restless Volunteer walks across screen. Title: Engaging Young People in Development Leads to Better Outcomes. This film is part of the series How and Why to Engage Young People in Development, produced by Restless Development, made possible by a grant from the USAID YouthPower Learning Project. Text appears on screen. Child marriage in Nepal is illegal. Despite this, almost 40% of girls are married before the age of 18. In 2011, there were more than 20,000 cases of child marriage in Sansari, a district in southern-eastern Nepal. That was until young people got involved. In 2015, 12,500 young people got involved with the Save the Date programme, which works to end child marriage in 4 districts across Nepal. In 2016, in Sansari's Chandabella village, there were no new child marriages and the village declared itself child marriage free. Images of children playing appear on screen. Restless staff member VJ speaks. More than 1,000 children, 84% girls, were getting married before the age of 10. That was how bleak the situation was. When the youths collected the data and showed it to the government officials, they were shocked. Text appears on screen. Data is a crucial source of evidence for young people and citizens to hold their governments to account. Young people working in places like Sansari have the skills and trust of local communities to collect data on sensitive topics like child marriage. They have access to data that others would not. VJ continues, the experience that a youth has had cannot be understood by others. More importantly, when adults and young people communicate, it's difficult for them to be open. That is why peer educators are required, and peer education becomes useful in such cases. Images of Restless Development volunteer teaching in a classroom appears on screen. He says, "My primary role at Restless Development is as a peer educator." Text appears on screen. When young people are trained to educate other young people, the messages they share have a better chance of changing attitudes and behaviours. In Sansari, it also meant information about child marriage spread through demonstrations held by other groups of young people in the community. Restless Volunteer continues, in the context of Sansari district and even in my own community, there is a huge problem of child marriage. Our community was affected by it, and in the southern part of the Sansari district it was even worse before Restless Development's programme. When we started this programme, there weren't any organisations working towards ending child marriage. Even though it was such a huge issue for Sansari, it was still not being addressed. Then we collected data for the Central Bureau of Statistics and showed the data to stakeholders. They were amazed to see the data and then committed to this campaign. Images of the National Youth Council appear. Executive Vice President of the National Youth Council, Madab, speaks. The youth policy is the voice of the youth, and it was formulated due to the role played by young people. The youth policy has been informed by huge discussions, debates, and interactions. The Nepal government made a few amendments to this policy and then passed it. Therefore, this policy is something the youth created. And, for the first time, we are moving towards execution phase with the documentations that the youth created. Text appears. Young people have become a bridge between the community and the local government. The data helps government understand the priorities of young people and can influence policy on issues like child marriage. VJ appears on screen. He speaks. We are very happy with the initiative that we started. The youth took leadership themselves against child marriage and have achieved success and are still working relentlessly. This has encouraged us, and Restless Development is still committed to work on practices such as ending chowpatty, a house ban for menstruating girls, and education for girls. VJ continues, if the youth participation had not been so large, and had the youth peer educators not been able to sensitise other youths, then the program would not have been successful. A young Nepalese girl speaks. Earlier, I did not know much about child marriage, but ever since the peer educator arrived in our school, she has taught us about the adverse effects of child marriage. In the beginning, when we performed our plays or rallies, people questioned what we were trying to do when we protested child marriage. However, over the last 2 years, we relentlessly conducted rallies and plays. We were successful and able to bring positive change in the community. Now, people support and participate with us in our plays and rallies. Now my life has changed, as it has been energized. Images of a rally appear on screen. VJ speaks. What I would like to say to other organisations working to end child marriage is that I would strongly recommend them to mobilise youth. Text appears on screen. Despite the legal age of marriage being raised to 20, child marriage was still widespread in communities. One of the biggest issues young people faced is seeing national policy implemented at local level due to lack of awareness and enforcement. By collecting data and educating local decision makers on the ineffectiveness of the policy, young people were able to influence and enforce the policy within their own community, ending child marriage for their generation and the next. This film is part of the series How and Why to Engage Young People in Development. Restless Development logo appears. USAID logo.
From the American people.